Hello, and welcome to my tutorial series on how to make a mobile match game in Unity. A couple days ago I released this video, Help Fight Hunger While Sitting on Your Toilet. The concept of this campaign is that I've created a mobile match game, like this one here that I've already uploaded a demo to on my tablet, and 100% of all the profits to this are going to be going to Feeding America, which supports food banks in all 50 states. I thought it'd be a good idea to show everyone how to make this game and how to publish it to both iOS and Android systems. Let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a new project right here in my Unity Hub. It's going to be a 2D project. I'm going to call it Match 3 Tutorial, but you can call it whatever you want. And I'm just going to save it here in my Unity projects. I'm going to select that folder and we're going to create it. And it's going to take a few minutes for Unity to load this game. So the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a few more folders. I'm going to create a folder called scripts. I'm going to create a folder called art. And in my scenes folder, I'm going to rename this scene just main. It'll make life a little easier later. So we'll have to reload the scene. So I'm going to click on my background tile. And right here we can see we have pixels per unit, which is 100. And I'm going to change that to 512 because this is a 512 by 512 block. So this will match a 1-for-1 pixels per unit with this block, because this is set to 512 pixels per unit and this is set to 512 pixels per unit naturally. So now I'm going to take this background and I'm going to put it up here into my hierarchy. I'm also going to hit save. And now I'm going to rename it. I'm going to call it tile background, just to give a better definition of what it's going to be. Then actually I'm going to create another folder called prefabs, which are game objects we hope to use again and again and again. I'm going to take my tile background, I'm going to drag it over into my prefabs folder. And as you can see right here, it turns blue. Prefabs turn blue in the hierarchy, so you know which object they are, that they are prefabs. So now I'm going to take this and I'm going to delete it from my scene. And I'm going to hit save. So now I'm going to go into my scripts folder. I'm going to create 2 C# scripts. The first is going to be called board. And as you can imagine, I'm going to let Unity make that script. Go over here and I'm going to attach it to my board script by simply dragging it over. I'm going to be creating another C# script, and this is just going to be called background tile. And I'm going to go into, right after this script gets loaded, let me go to my prefabs. I'm going to click on it, then I go back to my scripts folder, and I'm going to take this background tile script and I'm going to put it onto my tile background prefab. So now I'm going to open our board script, and I've already put the code in here ahead of time. That way, instead of watching me type, I can use more time to explain what's going on better. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to create tiles that go in X and Y direction. They're going to be set in these orders right here. So to do that, we need to first have 2 integers, width and height, because they are tiles we built in terms of width and height. And then we're going to create a game object, tile prefab, and this is what our prefab that we made earlier is going to go into so that we can utilize it. And then we want to create an array, and that's going to build our grid. And the name of this background tile is going to be all tiles. Now here at the start, we're going to define all tiles. We're going to say it's going to be equal to a new background tile, and its components are going to be width and height. Now below this, we have the setup. This right here, this function, and here we have an iteration. And an iteration, basically, it fills in information starting at a point and it ends at another point. So here for integer I equals 0, meaning we're starting at 0, and until I is less than the width, which means that it's going to keep building it from left to right, starting with 0 and going all the way to whatever other number is designated. Because in the game, you'll see later on that we are going to be able to adjust the width and the height depending on what you want here. It can be as big or small as you'd like. So starting at I equals 0 and until it hits the width number that's provided, it's going to increment. It's going to add and go to another one. It's going to start here at 0 and it's going to go to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's how it increments. Now, this is from left to right, and we also need one for up and down. And so we used I for the width. So we're going to use J for our height. So same thing applies, starting at 0, then going 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and building it till the number we designate there. So that's how incrementing works. We're going to be using it a whole lot. Now, in order to define what's going to be incremented, because we just said that we are going to increment, now we have to tell it what to increment. So we had to give a position to everything. So we have a vector 2, it's called temporary position, and it's going to be equal to a new vector 2, and it's going to be based on these I and j components that are being incremented. Now we have to tell it what we're actually building, which is our prefab tile. So it's going to be a game object. We're going to call this game object background tile, and it's going to instantiate something, which means it's going to create something. So there's 3 components to instantiating. What it's instantiating, which is our prefab tile up here. Its position, which is the temp position, which is based off of the incrementation of the I and j. And this is called quaternion.identity. And I'm not going to go too much into quaternions, or I'm not going to go into them at all. It has to do with rotation. And when we do quaternion.identity, it means it's going to have no rotation because it's a 2D flat game. We don't need it to rotate. So now I am going to type something because I forgot something. I'm going to have to call my function right there. This is where I created my function, but it's not going to do anything until I call it somewhere. So right here is where I'm going to call it in the start method. As soon as the game starts, I want to set up my tiles. I'm going to go back here into Unity. I'm going to let my scripts load. And I'm going to click on board. And now here we have 2 empty fields, or 3 empty fields rather, for width and height. And that's because we declared them public. Public means that they will appear in the inspector window right here. And so right now it's 0, 0. So let's say 7 by 5, 7 wide, 5 high. And right here, tile prefab, there's nothing in there. This is our public game object, tile prefab. That's what it's referring to. And so we're going to go over here to our prefabs. Going to grab our tile background, and we're going to put it right in there. So now that that is settled, we have to change our aspect, because it's just a free aspect that fits this screen right here. We want it to be able to fit the general aspect of a mobile device such as a phone or tablet. So it's usually 9 by 16. That is the aspect that will give you the right size. And I'm just going to hit play. I know what's going to happen. So now our entire board is up and to the right because this is our board game object. Remember, we gave an icon to it, and that's good so we can see it, because this is where the board built itself. And as you can see, this is the 0, 0 point. If I were to click on this, it would say the position is 0, 0, 0. If I click on the next one, it's over by 1. And that's this one right here. It's at x0, y1. So we want to move our board down. So I'm just going to go to my camera. Let's try 2 and 3 and hit play. And that's a much better centering. So as I was saying before, let's go back to our scene and we'll pause it. And when we're looking at this, we did this whole thing with the iterations where we built it starting from 0 until our width is hit. So if I were to start here, this is 0 width, and it should go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's, we did say 5, but that's 5 numbers right there. 0, 1 through 4. That's how increments are usually built, or that's where we started ours from. It's convention to start at 0. So we started at 0, 0, which is this point. As you can see, x0, y0. And now if I click on the next one, it goes above it. So it's still at x equals 0, y equals 1, because it went up 1, but it's still at the 0 width. And if I were to go here, it's x equals 1, because that's 1 over, and 3 up, because it's a 2, 0, 1, 2. So that's all we'll stop for today. As always, thank you for watching. Like this video, subscribe to my channel, follow me on Facebook and Twitter, and support me on Patreon. And a big special thanks to all my Patreon supporters. See you next time.